before he became a beloved star. Before John Wick made him a modern action icon, before the memes celebrated his silence and sincerity, Keanu Reeves was just a boy dealing with loss, instability, and loneliness. He wasn't born into fame. He was born into chaos, wrapped in silence. Born in Beirut, raised in Toronto, Keanu's early life was anything but steady. His father left when he was just 3 years old, and never came back. The sense of abandonment lingered not just in the home, but in his heart. His mother remarried multiple times, and they moved often, making home feel more like a passing station than a place of peace. Keanu struggled academically, not because he wasn't intelligent, but because he was different. Dyslexia made reading difficult, and he often felt like a misfit in a world that didn't understand him. And then came the losses that would quietly shape him. His best friend, River Phoenix, gone to a drug overdose at 23. His daughter, born still. The woman he loved, Jennifer Syme, died in a tragic car crash just 18 months later. Pain upon pain, grief stacked in silence, and yet, he never exploded, never lashed out, never used fame as a shield or an ego boost. Because Keanu wasn't built like most stars. He wasn't chasing attention, he was just trying to hold on. In a world that taught him pain, he chose not to return it. In a world that handed him brokenness, he responded with healing. That's where his real power began, in how he carried the weight without letting it harden him. He smiled when it hurt, helped when no one asked, sat in the back row when he could have owned the front. While others used pain to build walls, Keanu used it to build bridges, to empathy, to kindness, to quiet power. This chapter of his life isn't in most headlines. It isn't glamorous, but it's essential, because it shows us that true kindness isn't a trait, it's a choice made, over and over, especially when life gives you every reason not to. Fame has a strange way of changing people. For many, it becomes a drug feeding the ego, widening the distance between who they are and who the world thinks they should be. But Keanu Reeves was never like the others. Fame didn't corrupt him. In fact, he almost ran from it. While the world screamed his name, he walked softly like a man who never believed the hype and never needed the applause. In the early 90s, Keanu became a household name with films like Point Break and Speed. Then came The Matrix, a global phenomenon that cemented him as a superstar. He had it all: the looks, the money, the power, the legacy. But while the world focused on the headlines, Keanu focused on the people around him, the crew, the assistants, the makeup artists, the stunt doubles. He was the kind of man who took pay cuts so others could be paid more. The kind of man who gave away millions from his Matrix earnings, not for attention, but because he believed they deserved it. This wasn't charity, it was character. Behind the cameras, he rode the subway, alone, no entourage, no special treatment. He waited in lines, carried his own bags, and lived in a modest apartment long after he could afford mansions. Not because he had to, but because he never wanted to lose himself in the noise. You see, while most people use fame to build distance, Keanu used it to get closer, closer to truth, closer to others. He never tried to be a star, he just tried to be human in a world that constantly pushes people to act like gods. The irony, that's what made him even more beloved. In a culture full of loud influencers, Keanu became an icon of quiet influence. While others chased viral moments, he became timeless, not because he tried to be, but because he didn't. He wasn't acting humble. He was humble. And in doing so, he showed the world that real strength doesn't need to shout, that you don't have to dominate others to be powerful, that kindness, steady, silent, sincere, can echo louder than fame ever will. Fame was never about him, it was about what he chose to do with it, and what he did was remind the world what goodness looks like. Kindness is easy to preach, harder to practice. But Keanu Reeves, he made it his way of life. And what made his kindness so powerful wasn't that it was grand or performative, it was real, quiet, consistent, without cameras, without applause. Over the years, countless stories emerged, not from Keanu's PR team, but from the people around him. A crew member on set who got a surprise bonus because Reeves knew he was struggling. A fan who met him at a coffee shop and walked away not only with a selfie, but a conversation that felt like they mattered. A homeless man who spent an evening with Keanu on a sidewalk, not because Reeves pitied him, but because he saw him. These weren't stunts, they were instincts. He gave away millions from his Matrix earnings to the special effects and costume teams because he believed they were the real stars behind the scenes. He bought Harleys for stunt performers who risked their lives to make him look good, and yet, he never talked about it, never tweeted it, never used it for attention. Because for Keanu, kindness isn't currency, it's character. A famous moment where Keanu gave up his seat on a packed subway train for a woman with a heavy bag. A simple act, but it went viral, not because it was flashy, but because it was rare. In a world that glorifies dominance, he chose decency. Over and over again, his interviews are filled with pauses, with humility, with phrases like "I don't know" and "I just try to be a good person." In a world addicted to image, Keanu became a man of substance, and that is what turned him into a legend. He didn't fight battles with fists, he disarmed people with warmth. He didn't speak louder, he made silence powerful. His greatest roles may have been on screen, but his greatest impact was off it in how he treated people when no one was watching. And that's the lesson. Kindness doesn't need an audience. True goodness doesn't demand to be seen, it reveals itself in the smallest acts. In the way you speak to a stranger, in the way you value those no one claps for, in how you treat someone who can do nothing for you. Keanu showed us that kindness isn't weakness, it's resistance. Resistance to ego, resistance to arrogance, resistance to a world that tells you power is about control. He proved that real power is in how gently you hold it. In a world that moves too fast, shouts too loud, and values the wrong things far too often, someone like Keanu Reeves doesn't just stand out, he becomes a mirror. A reflection of the kind of human being we all want to be, but often forget. In the chaos of ambition, algorithms, and attention, Keanu didn't chase greatness, he attracted it, not by being louder, richer, or stronger, but by being genuinely good. And in today's world, that is revolutionary. Because let's be honest, we're taught from a young age that power means control, success means status, and influence means popularity. We're told to climb, conquer, outshine, but Keanu showed us something different. He showed us that true strength lies in restraint, that real masculinity can be gentle, that fame doesn't require ego, and most importantly, that you can lose everything and still choose kindness. His story is not about the red carpets, box office hits, or internet praise. It's about the man who could have become bitter but chose better. He could have given up after loss. He could have withdrawn into cynicism after rejection. He could have armored himself with pride after fame. But he did in single quotes instead. He became more human, more present, more kind. That's the power of someone like Keanu. He doesn't need to say much. His life speaks for itself. And in that quiet example, we're reminded of a rare truth, that you don't need to be loud to change the world. You just need to be real. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, creates a ripple. And Keanu's life is a tsunami of silent ripples seen in every set worker he treated like family. Every fan he hugged like a friend. Every dollar he gave away quietly. Every moment he chose humility when arrogance was available. He didn't ask for your admiration, but he earned your respect. In an industry fueled by attention, Keanu became eternal by walking the other way, while others rushed to be remembered. He was busy being good, and that goodness, that's what makes legends. Not the money, not the movies, but the way they make people feel. That's why we need more keenness. Not because we need more movie stars, but because we need more people who remember how to be human, people who can hold pain and still be soft, people who can succeed and still be simple, people who treat janitors and directors the same, people who sit quietly on a subway and offer their seat, because someone else might need it more. Keanu is proof that kindness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's not passive, it's powerful. In a society that values me first, he reminds us that there's strength in thinking you first. And that kind of thinking, it changes lives. So if you're watching this, wondering if being kind really matters in a world that rewards cruelty, let Keanu's life be your answer. Yes, it matters. Yes, it's rare. Yes, it's hard. But it's worth it. Because when the world forgets what good looks like, people like Keanu bring us back to it, not by being perfect, but by being present, by being kind, and in the end, that's the legacy that outlives the spotlight. You never know what someone is going through. Be kind, always. Keanu Reeves.